My family gave my brother a house and me a $2 lottery ticket. I won $134 million and bought a Porsche right under their noses to teach them a lesson. My parents always had a way of making favoritism sound reasonable. My older brother, Jake, was the one who always needed a chance. Every bad decision he made somehow became another reason for my parents to rescue him. He dropped out of college twice, and they paid his bills. He wrecked 2 trucks, and they bought another one. When he got married, they handed him the keys to a 3-bedroom house they had inherited from my grandfather. I stood in the driveway while Mom smiled and said, "You're independent. Jake has a family to think about." I nodded and congratulated him, even though it stung more than I admitted. A week later, my birthday came around. The family gathered in my parents' backyard for burgers, chips, and iced tea. Jake spent the afternoon talking about paint colors for his new house, while Dad helped him plan a deck and discussed landscaping ideas. Then Mom handed me a birthday card. Inside was a $2 lottery scratch ticket. She laughed. "Maybe you'll get lucky." Everyone smiled. Jake grinned. "Maybe it'll cover your rent." I folded the ticket and slipped it into my wallet without scratching it. It wasn't worth making a scene over a joke that everyone else seemed to enjoy. Nearly a week later, while cleaning out my wallet after work, I found it again. I scratched it at my kitchen counter while leftovers warmed in the microwave. I checked the numbers once, then again. My heart started pounding. The ticket matched the jackpot, $134 million. The next morning, I drove to the lottery office. They verified the ticket, explained the claim process, and advised me to keep everything private until it was finalized. So I did. I hired an attorney, then a financial advisor. I quietly left my engineering job after giving proper notice. For weeks, nothing about my life looked different. I still went to Sunday dinners. I still listened to Jake complain about repairs on the free house he'd been given. Dad still hinted that if I worked harder, maybe someday I'd own a place like Jake's. I smiled, nodded, and never corrected anyone. Nobody knew the money was coming. When it finally arrived, I paid off my mortgage, bought a quiet home outside town through an LLC, invested most of the money, and kept living normally. The only thing I bought for myself was the car I'd wanted since I was a teenager, a silver Porsche 911. I picked it up a few weeks later. The first place I drove was my parents' house for Sunday dinner. I parked across from Jake's driveway. Dad walked outside carrying a drink. He stopped. "What is that?" "My car." He laughed. "No, seriously. I am serious." Jake walked around it slowly. "How much debt did you take on?" "None." Mom stepped outside. She stared at the car. "Did you win the lottery or something?" I smiled. "Actually, yes. Look." I opened the glove box and pulled out the birthday card. The scratch ticket was still inside. Mom recognized it immediately. "You've got to be kidding." "I won." Dad frowned. "How much?" $134 million. Nobody spoke. Jake stared at me without blinking. Mom finally whispered, "That was our ticket." I shook my head. "No, I bought it. You gave it away." Dad's expression changed instantly. "Well, family should celebrate together." That sentence told me everything. Within days, the phone calls started. Jake wanted help paying for a pool. Mom wanted a remodeled kitchen. Dad had investment ideas. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly wanted to catch up. I answered politely. Then I said no, every single time. A few weeks later, Mom invited me to dinner. Halfway through dessert, Dad cleared his throat. "Jake's house isn't really big enough anymore." Mom smiled carefully. "We thought maybe you could buy him a larger one." I set my coffee down. "You already bought him a house." "That was different." "How?" Silence filled the room. Finally, Dad muttered, "He's your brother." I nodded. "And I'm your son." Nobody answered. I thanked Mom for dinner, walked outside, got into my Porsche 911, and drove home. After that, the calls slowly stopped. Holiday invitations became less frequent. Jake quit texting. I eventually heard my parents telling relatives that money had changed me. I never argued. Instead, I quietly donated to local scholarships, paid medical bills through charities, and helped people who had never expected anything from me. Several months later, I happened to drive past my parents' neighborhood on my way home from a meeting. Jake was mowing the lawn in the same house they had given him. Dad was washing his truck. Mom was watering flowers. They all looked up as my Porsche 911 rolled past. For one quiet moment, nobody moved. Then I kept driving. They gave Jake a house. They gave me a $2 lottery ticket. It turned out the smallest gift was the only one they could never ask to have.